Okay, Gordon, all of you gang, did you join me still?
We're here.
Sure.
Okay, excellent. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on this webinar that Borrell Associates as well as Second Street are going to provide for all of you. I hope you're all well and healthy. So we have a lot to cover and we've got a hard stop. So I'm going to turn this program over to Gordon Borrell, CEO of Borrell Associates, and we're going to get started right away. Gordon?
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If those of you who have ever been on any of our webinars know, our style is really kind of fast. And that's because we assume that you are smart people and understand things. So you're going to see a whole lot of stuff. We're a research company. We understand advertising and marketing. Corey's going to jump on in a moment and give you some of that. So take some screenshots. Patty is recording this, so you'll be able to see that. And then there's information at the end on how to get the deck if you would like it, because there are some slides on here you are going to want to show to your advertisers. The intent of this is not just to tell you what we think is going on. The intent is to make you smart and take this information to your advertisers. So what we are doing to you, with you as possible clients or newspapers in this regard, is what you actually should be doing with your clients. Respond now, respond in a very positive way. I'm going to give you a brief overview. We're going to take a look at the effect at the local level with some research that we have been collecting and show you advertisers' state of mind right now coming into this, then their state of mind and how it changed, and then a really interesting question that we've just asked them in the past couple of days about what you can be doing for them. Matt's going to talk about promotions, and thank God he's going to follow up with a special webinar with you guys on Thursday. Really, this is so much about promotions. And so you're going to want those ideas from Matt, but he's on this webinar to give you a little bit of tease as to what that means and why. And then Jim's going to boil it all down for us and give you some advice on what you should be doing. We'll leave it open for questions if you want to type them in. I think we have about 100 that you guys typed in prior to this webinar, and we're sorting through those now as we go. So back 100 years ago, one of my favorite articles from the New Yorker really outlined what happened during the Great Depression when Post and Kellogg were two cereal companies, and Post was the dominant one. And they did what you actually may be doing, and certainly your advertisers, and that is wringing your hands and going, oh, God, we have to cut back. You know, we're getting contracts canceled. And they did the predictable thing at Post. Meanwhile, Kellogg said, oh, hell no, this is a great time. They doubled their budget. They moved aggressively into the new medium of the day. While Post was in magazines, Harper's and Life magazine and Look and things like that, Kellogg said, oh, everybody's listening to the radio. It's the 1920s, late 20s into the 30s. And they stole market share. Their profits rose 30%. This is a great story, and it's not relevant only to 100 years ago. GM did it during 9/11. 9/11, September the 11th, when everybody was hand-wringing and saying, oh, everything has stopped. Contracts are being canceled. GM said, oh, hell no, we're going to keep America rolling. And they had this fantastic campaign, and they added 1 million units. Million cars and trucks sold between September 12th and the end of the year. Phenomenal. You can bet that every one of your auto dealers in your market already know this, because everybody's been pushing this story to them. Oh, during 9/11, this is what happened. So there is a path. There is a way. Something I suggest you start with, if you're going to take this information to your local advertisers, is this. Don't believe us. You know, we have an interest in you buying more advertising and doing more marketing. Believe the Small Business Administration, which just put this out in their coronavirus small business guidance and loan page. It says, marketing. It's critical to communicate with your customers about the status of your operations, blah, blah, blah. Promotions may also help incentivize customers who may be reluctant to patronize your business. So let me give you a couple of examples of things that are happening. I am getting emails from people, and I have for the past several days, saying, I've just been laid off. Radio company, newspaper company, vendor to the industry. I've been getting those. Simultaneously, I've been getting emails that have said, business is booming. We're doing great. We saved this many. Here's our approach to people who said they wanted to cancel their contracts. Here are the new things we're doing. Here are the creative ideas. It's the way you look at it. I encourage you to be positive. I'm going to turn it over to Corey. He's going to tell you what is in the mind of these local advertisers. We are taking this information. We have a webinar about 35 minutes, 45 minutes from now with local advertisers in a market. We have 4 or 5 of them backed up over the next couple of days. Advertisers are clamoring for this. So what I'm trying to tell you is what we're about to tell you is great and informative to you, but this is something you need to go and push down to your local advertiser. Before I turn it over to Corey, I want to say one more thing. Ran across a magazine, a local magazine in Tennessee this morning that said, oh, we're doing a series of things. We consider ourselves a communications company. We're helping sort out all of the legal issues, the policy issues, the government issues, and the financial issues around coronavirus for local businesses. So we're helping them apply for loans. We're giving them information. We're helping them understand regulations. Our job as a communications company, we're helping them with that. We're not going to help you with that on this webinar. That's not our expertise. We're going to help you with the marketing piece of it. So the message is really clear. This is a great time to advertise. Don't sit there, get the message out. So I'm going to turn it over to Corey at this point. Corey is our head of local market intelligence at Borrell Associates, and he is our key research guy, the smartest guy in the company. Corey?
And also the best looking, but thanks, Gordon. So yeah, let's get right into it. We've got a lot of stats here, and because I kind of want to show you where a local advertiser's head's at. So we do this SMB panel. We have an SMB panel we ask questions of every month, and every 3 months we ask them the same 4 questions about the economy and how it looks. What you're seeing is how they answered in December of 2008, then December of 2009, or 19, I should say, 18 and 19. If you look at them side by side, you can see in all these different 4 questions, their attitudes are getting better. We asked if have things gotten better in the past 6 months, and less of them said that it's been harder. What's the current economic climate like? More of them say excellent. What will the next 6 months bring? It's going to be better. And finally, that last one, will you be spending more in advertising? 32% of them in 2019 said yes. So what does this mean? Going into 2020 and back in January, which seems a long time ago, things were looking good. Now, this is a report from the NFIB, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, their research center. They asked their own members on March 10th and 11th, are you concerned about the coronavirus impacting your business? 44% said, yeah, I'm concerned. Now, remember, this is 2 weeks ago. This is just 2 weeks ago, and it's already turned. On this next slide, you can see how they think coronavirus will impact their business, either negatively or not at all, or what. And 43% said negative, 37% said not sure. You add those 2 together, you get 80% who back on March 10th and 11th just didn't know what was going to happen, and it's probably going to be bad. So uncertainty on top of uncertainty. Of the ones who were negatively impacted, this is how they were negatively impacted, or what they reported. 39% experienced supply chain, 42% saw slower sales, 4% had sick employees. Pay attention to that 39% experienced supply chain disruption, because it gets kind of interesting when we ask, or they ask, well, what are you doing about it? What actions are you taking as a result of the coronavirus outbreak? 52% said no measurable steps. 30% were stocking up on the disinfectant, the hand sanitizers, and probably the toilet paper too. Look at that last one, just out of curiosity. 3% modified their supply chain, even though 39% said that was the major issue. Only 3% are doing anything about it. So there's a lot of activity, a lot of confusion going on right now, obviously. But remember, before we even got into this, so I want to explain the attitudes of local advertisers when it comes to media companies and advertising. We run a survey every year, and this is from the survey. We know that 50% of local businesses agree with Wanamaker's lament. Wanamaker, the guy who said, half my advertising works, the trouble is I don't know what half. Well, half of advertisers agree with that. Another half, 48%, have no strategy for setting their ad budget. We asked, they said, we don't know how we do it. We just make it up. 58% are unsure that they're spending the right amount in advertising. So they think they're spending too much or too little, or they just don't know. And most are trying to handle marketing on their own. They're not looking at any particular media company as being the overall guidance or giving them overall suggestions. They're trying to piece their own marketing together. So taking into this, that they came into this a little unsure. They were looking forward to the economic conditions in 2020. They're trying to piece their own marketing together, and then this all happens. You can imagine the amount of chaos now when it comes to marketing or communication
Corey,
with local advertisers.
Jump in a second. So what we're trying to convey to you is that coming into 2020, they were feeling really good, and all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from under them. We're giving you this information about, they're confused about their advertising, and this has actually been growing. They have no strategy. These folks, you should see the comments in our surveys. So they've come into this kind of happy, but also kind of unsure about what they're spending. I'm going to buy more search marketing. I'm going to do some more stuff on Facebook. Oh, yeah, this new thing called TikTok. I'm going to try that. But they're really uncertain. All of a sudden, the rug gets pulled out from under them, and they go, what? They need your help. This is a perfect storm for you. It really, really is. This is a time when they need a friend. Local newspapers to the rescue. You guys know this. You know how to tell stories. You know how to craft marketing messages. You know how to communicate. Your communications companies now, right? Your media companies. What a perfect time for you. The only thing you have to know is, okay, what do these advertisers really, want from you, and what instills trust? And, what are they looking for? What causes them to trust the folks you're sending out to talk to them? Corey has the answer.
Well, wow, what a segue. So we asked, what characteristics of a media sales rep influence your media buy? Number one was the ability to understand their own darn product and who it reaches and what function it takes in the marketing chain, right? Remember, because they're trying to piece all this together themselves. But number two, right after that, is overall knowledge about marketing and advertising. They don't want to piece this stuff together themselves. They want help, but they just don't feel like they're finding it anymore. And so that's a really important thing to understand about what's going on out there. Now, let's talk a little bit about consumerism. You probably saw this. This came from Nielsen a couple days ago. Nielsen suggests that the media consumption rises about 60% when consumers are asked to stay at home for any reason like that. They looked at past events like hurricanes, things like that, where people had to shelter at home. Guess what? Media consumption went up. It went up nearly 60%. That's new media consumption across the board. But if we start to peel it down a little bit, and ComScore came out with this that looked at 40 selected news sites, most of which are powered by who? Yeah, well, local newspapers. But you'll see a jump from 392 million up to 523. That's a 33% jump in news visits in 2020. So there's great engagement. People are flocking to news sites to understand what the heck is going on, especially on a local level. Speaking of on a local level, and we can see this when we look at, again from ComScore, local TV news viewing. So don't get excited that it says TV news. Just think of it as local news and the engagement thereof. So you're looking at year-over-year numbers of households engaged with local TV news, up 28% in Seattle. Makes sense. They're a hot spot right now. And overall, the average of the top 25 markets, 11%. So people want local information. They're coming there.
Yeah, Corey, I think I'd also point out on the previous slide that was fueled mainly by newspaper sites or news, more news-related sites, that you saw an increase of 33%. So TV could be touting that, oh yeah, we're seeing a big uptick for local news. Well, the big uptick here is 11%, a third of what you're seeing with what is, I think, mainly newspaper sites. And it makes a whole lot of sense. There's a lot more depth of information on newspaper sites. On TV sites, you might get you might get a little video, which is kind of interesting, but there's also a lot of weather and sports and things like that. Not of that great interest right now. So news sites, particularly newspaper sites, really do have a greater level of traffic.
Absolutely. Now, this is just an example. You can probably go to your own local markets, your state governments, your local governments, and understand what they're starting to deem as essential businesses. This happens to be from the Bay Area. But if you read through here, you'll see some that aren't so surprising, like healthcare operations. corporations. But halfway down the list, you'll see some that you might not think. Laundry services. We live in Virginia, and our governor just declared laundry services to be an essential business. These are important things to know, because the flip side of a list like this are the businesses that are facing some challenges. And there's going to be any business that requires or relies on a group of people to be together is going to have a tough time right now. Doesn't mean they're down and out or gone, or that they can't and don't need to communicate to their clients or customers. One would argue that they need to communicate even more. Nightclubs, sporting events, department stores, museums, casinos, racetracks, anywhere where a lot of people come together. It's going to be rough. But you can look at your own market and pretty much file businesses into three different buckets. Essential, again, guided from a local government. These are the essential businesses. These are the ones that they're going to try and keep their doors open as much as they possibly can. At risk are the ones we just talked about, the ones that rely on people being together, gambling casinos. It's going to be tough for them. And then there's a limbo, ones that could go either way. For example, the automotive sales. There's a story out of LA, and I think it's Albuquerque, where auto dealers are now bringing cars to people who are interested in cars. Now, granted, new car sales have taken a dip year over year, but auto dealers are trying. They're trying new things and trying to get creative. Also, there's a story on the other recreation places, which we have listed in at risk. There are some golf courses that are trying to take a unique stance and say, hey, look, you can still come, you golf, you're by yourself, or you're not around people, you're outside, you don't have to touch anything. That's a great way to, blow off some steam. On the right-hand side are some categories that are both essential but also at risk, like eating and drinking places. You guys know that. Some states have closed down the ability to go into a restaurant and sit, but if they have delivery or drive-through, that's essential. Same with colleges and universities, you can imagine. So,
Corey, if I could just jump in quick, people have asked, okay, which ones are the best ones to go at? Are they the green? Because you go for green, right? That means go. Or the red, or what? I'd say all of them. They all have needs. But note at the very bottom, the footnote we have, the list isn't all inclusive. This is what we do at Borrell Associates. We follow the money. We don't want you chasing after a restaurant that has 5 people that close and you're going, oh, poor restaurant, we want to help them. They might not have any money. You got to be smart about it. Look at where the money is. Go after those who can, help your business and you can help them. And each one of these represents a different type of opportunity. If they're essential, what a great time to get a message out to thank the community and say, we're really happy to be able to, we still have supplies of this or that. If they're at risk, what a great time to send out a message and say, we're still here, we're not open, but we're planning to reopen. And we also have this, or we have delivery, or here's a great idea. And you'll hear some of those in a second. My mulch guy this morning told me when I called him, and I said, well, I'm at home a lot. I could be spreading some mulch in the afternoon. I called him and he said, I've got a 3-week, 2-week backup here, maybe. Everybody seems to have the same idea. So it depends on how creative you can be with these companies with the messaging. Corey?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I want to show you the results of the new survey we just put out. In fact, we're fielding it right now. We're probably closing it up here.
I think Jim is going to describe some of these, Corey, but these are the ones that we've just begun to ask. But I think Jim has taken toward the end. We're going to see the responses to these questions.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But go ahead.
We added these questions to our latest barometer survey. We asked the 4 typical economic questions that we have, but then we've added these. And the most important one down there at the bottom is, what would you like to see your local media companies do to help you get through the next X amount of time?
And Jim is going to take that one. He's going to show you. We've looked at some of the results that came out over the past couple of days. Anyway,
so this is the 2 that I'll go over here. Is we asked, how long do you anticipate the impact on your business will last? And here you see the results. This is from local advertiser. This is what they said. So the biggest line there is the 26%. say 3 to 4 months. Well, you add those first two together, you get 43%. That's darn near half that are looking pretty optimistic, that are out there saying, you know what, by 4 months, we're going to get through this. We'll be on the other side. So I think this is an important slide that you could take out to advertisers and ask them how long do they think it's last, so they have some way of knowing what their peers are saying out there. And the other one I wanted to go over, we asked, as of today, have restrictions been put in place in your local area to make it harder for your customers to do business with you? 63% yes. And this question set, like I said, it's still out there. We're still getting results from it. So it's just over the weekend, Friday through Tuesday. So it's pretty fresh. 22% said not yet. This underlying story here is most businesses are impacted, period.
And as you talk to as your sales reps go out and talk to advertisers, I think it's important that you empathize with them first. Some of this information is going to be really important, so feel free to share it with them. Everybody wants to know that, you know, when it's going to end. Everybody has their own theory. So show them that previous slide, this one. So, oh, well, you know, recent survey said 1 to maybe 4 months. 43% said that. You know, 17% said maybe 1 to 2 months. I don't know what it'll be, but they would be comforted to hear that this isn't going to last until the end of the year. At least their peers are thinking of that. I wanted to turn it over to Matt because we had talked a little bit at the beginning about promotions, and Matt is the man when it comes to promotions. Matt, we're going to turn it over to you.
Okay, Gordon, and I'm going to ask you to weigh in on this first slide here because it's your data. If we go to this slide, what Gordon has showed us at Second Street and so many of us on this call over the last decade is there's this explosive growth going on in promotions over the last decade plus. What I want to take a moment today to set up, and then my colleagues Liz Kreider-Huff and Julie Foley, I know on Thursday, are going to run a webinar to give you a ton more thinking on this. But I wanted to go back in time to look at where this arrow goes, which is back in the 08, 09, 2010 timeframe. The last time we went to an economic recession, a downturn, as we're going to weather a little bit here coming forward, is when promotions really took off. And the reason really is because when it comes to a downturn, advertisers are looking for measurable outcomes, measurable results if they're going to invest in marketing. To Gordon's point earlier, they need to invest in marketing. They need to do that to grow. But what they're going to be looking for is a higher plane of not just branding, but looking for leads, looking to build their databases, looking for the data that's going to allow them to turn their investment in a measurable way into actual customers. And what happened in 08, 09, and 2010 led to further growth as people move promotions online. Online is the ultimate promotions medium. But we found that what advertisers really fundamentally want is they want to pair a promotion with a traditional media company like a newspaper that can help put the promo in the promotion. So we're looking for a big spike in the continued growth we've already seen with promotions. I'm going to give you a couple of ways to think about this going forward. But Gordon, this is your data, and you've really given us the guidance. You want to kind of weigh in on what you expect to happen over the next 3, 6, 12 months around promotions?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure Corey heard we are expecting a big spike. So our response is going to be, well, we'll let you know if it happens. We're thinking there may be one too. But yes, when this is a classic disruptive scenario thing, and that is when there is a disruption in the marketplace, it could be disk drives or vacuum tubes or pneumatic arms or whatever, and there's something new, disrupting things. It takes an economic trigger for that new thing to really take off. And that's what we saw, the economic trigger for promotions, which was fueled by all these companies now being able to, your clients being able to use their own medium that goes direct to the consumer. And they're using more and more of it. So when that recession hit, that was the economic trigger. It had them more using promotions, which Matt will describe in just a moment, and saying, oh, wow, we can do something that will have measurable results and we have a little bit more control over. And this is the way I view promotions. It's just ideas. It's just really cool ideas that generate some immediate return, measurable return. So yeah, Corey will tell you that okay, we'll wait. When we measure the data, I kind of really think that you will see maybe an adjustment in that last number, 299 to maybe, 300 some billion dollars, et cetera, a little bit higher than we're forecasting right now. So the bottom line, Matt, is it's only growing. It's probably growing more by 2022. It'll probably be closer to 3 times what advertisers are spending on advertising, classic forms of advertising, which, by the way, just promote their promotions. They've created this great promotion, so now they need to play some ads. The person in charge of helping them with those promotions, hopefully you guys, newspapers, are the ones who are going to get the advertising to fuel it too, because that's the way it's going to work. They're going to create a relationship, as we showed you a little bit earlier. That person's going to trust the sales rep that they're working with, and they're going to handle their broad marketing needs, and they're going to wind up buying the newspaper and newspaper's digital advertising assets too. Matt, back to you.
Great. We're going to speed through a few different thoughts here, but when we talk about measurable results, I think what we're really traditionally talking about begins, of course, with foot traffic on the next slide here. And foot traffic obviously is something highly valued by advertisers, but I think obviously right now it's more than foot traffic they're looking for. They're looking for measurable things like on the next slide, looking for leads. So many service providers who've been in a good economy being able to depend on referrals that have been able to fuel what they're doing for. They're looking for the security of knowing that they know who in the community is looking for their services. So we're going to see leads be the primary driver of measurable results. But it's more than just leads. People want to build their databases, because that database is the way that they're going to be able to communicate with their customers and their prospective customers. That's the lifeblood of over the next 12 months being able to cultivate the business that businesses are going to need to survive and to have the opportunity to grow, which we think is a real opportunity for those who are aggressive. Furthermore, beyond just email, it's having the data to know how to prioritize who those prospects are and to be able to target to them. So knowing who owns a home, knowing who's considering a purchase at any given time, knowing the conditions that are going to make them more or less likely to buy is a really important piece of it. And finally, if we go to the next slide, to some degree, it is mostly about the email database, but there's still going to be advertisers who are looking to use promotions to drive social following, which can amplify that direct connection they have with them through email. So I wanted to give you just a few categories here to think about. We think about that there is going to be money on the move right now. So if you think about financial, how many of us are looking at our 401k statements, looking at our portfolios, and wondering, are we with the right financial provider? Are we getting the right guidance? Or maybe we don't have somebody who's providing that kind of guidance. So we think we're going to see a lot more of this. This is a financial Are You Ready for Retirement quiz by Edward Jones, generated over 136 submissions, but importantly generated 6 leads that converted to customers of prospects for people who are interested in those questions and interested in meeting with somebody new. If we go to the next slide here, we're looking at financial. This is more about financial. This is about insurance. How do you get people to raise their arm? 608 in opt-ins for this bank who's pushing insurance. On the next slide, we're looking at opportunities around tax preparation. This is going to be a mess for so many business owners and personal folks, even in the coming months. They're going to look for guidance around these lines. How do you help somebody be able to generate leads of people who are looking for that type of help? People are raising their hands, making that process that much easier. Home services is going to be a big one. Gordon, you mentioned your mulch guy. A lot of people are sitting at home. They're going to be spending more and more time in their home. They're going to look to invest in it. So this is a driveway makeover contest. Over $250,000 booked by this asphalt company based on the leads and estimates they were able to get from this driveway makeover contest. The next one is HVAC, home services. Just once again, people raising their hand in a contest and being able to become a lead for that process, for that advertiser. And finally, we're looking at, Gordon, maybe this would have been a good one for you on this next slide, is landscaping. If there's something with your home, what they are looking for are leads. They're looking to be able to cultivate leads to keep their crew busy. These are great opportunities for you. And then the final category is one I think is going to be really a lot of money on the move. It's around education. I've got 3 kids in my house who are going to be on Zoom taking classes within the next week. I think there's going to be a really disruptive moment. So if we look at the next slide, we're thinking about tutoring. How many parents out there are concerned about how their kids are going to perform in a distance learning environment in terms of their grades for this year, or just making sure their kids don't fall behind? What an incredible opportunity for tutoring. And you're going to see a lot more people go into the space to be able to find the people they're looking for. And finally, it's beyond that. It's just for colleges. They're going to be moving people. They're going to be concerned about enrollment, obviously in person. They're going to be looking to move to distance learning. How do you identify those prospects for them? Their money is going to be on the move as well. So I'll give you this quick free resource. And of course, you can join Liz and Julie next week. But if you go to secondstreet.com/sellers guide, we've got over 42 categories of ideas. To Gordon, your point, this is all about ideas and measurable results, and promotion is going to be a big part of it. Anything we can do to help, we're delighted to do so. So thanks, Gordon.
Great, thanks,
Thank you,
Matt.
Matt.
That's wonderful,
Jim's gonna
great
round us out
ideas.
here,
You guys should
and
take
then
them
we're
up on
gonna
that.
take
There's so
some
many great
questions.
ideas.
Jim?
Yeah, you bet. The survey that Gordon alluded to earlier, there was a question that we asked that we put to advertisers: what do you want? How can media companies help you? Aside from cost and issues related to payments and terms, what are the things you want? The top 2 things were advise and promote us. And so you can see some of the things they said. You know, I want a good way to deliver a confident message to our clients. They're looking for different ways to communicate new value propositions, ideas to keep them relevant, even though they might not be able to interact face-to-face with their customers. So they are looking to you. They want help. So be mindful of that. The other thing I want to point out to you is, how do you approach these customers? What is the way to talk to them? And I think the first thing you need to make sure you're doing is approaching them with empathy. So I've got a couple of thoughts on the next slide here on how to think about this. When you're communicating with your customers, I can't emphasize this enough: pick up the phone, call them. And in fact, you should be advising your customers to do the same. Matt just mentioned financial services. I work with 2 different financial planners who are constantly vying for different parts of my business. And it's interesting because I've had one who's called me on the phone 3 times. He's comforted me a bit. He's advised me. And another one, I've received emails that frankly feel like they're canned that he sends to everybody. So who do you think is getting more of my business right now? It's the person who's picked up the phone and called me. So consider doing that whenever possible. Call your customers. When you talk to them, put yourself in their shoes. You know they have a lot of concerns. Ask them about their family, their employees. They're concerned about their customers, their suppliers. They have short-term financial concerns, whether they're even going to be able to make payroll. Okay, listen, let them talk about those things. But you're going to end up in the same place, which is, what are you going to do about what they're thinking right now is, how am I going to ramp back up? You know, when the time comes, how do I catch up on all the lost sales that I had, right? And so that's where I think you can really help them. You want to be a resource, get creative. There's so many ways, as Matt just showed you, to solve these problems, particularly through promotions. So be really future focused when you're talking to them, not only about the today, and that's important. In fact, what I think you should enter with when you're starting that conversation is, what is your biggest challenge today? You know, maybe you can help them, maybe you can't, but at least get that in the open. But be focused on the solution in the long term. Business will come back. Things are going to turn around. When that happens, how are you going to help that customer be ready? Advise them that you need to stay positive and you can get through this together. They just need to make sure they continue. So here's just a couple of thoughts for you. I think these are just, there are so many examples, but just to point it out, somebody said to me the other day, well, why, Jim, would anyone be buying jewelry at a time like this? Well, I mean, I'm a good example. This is my 30th wedding anniversary coming up. We were going to go to Italy. That isn't going to happen now. Well, I still need to do something very nice for my wife. Maybe I'll buy some jewelry that I wouldn't have otherwise purchased. This is just one example. Someone asked about a gym membership. Well, my members can't get into the gym. What do I do? Number one, the gym itself should be picking up the phone and calling its customers, right? And I know an example of a gym up in Northern Virginia that my sister-in-law works for, where they set up their trainers to be able to do classes in their own living room, stream those videos to their clients, and provide all kinds of tips and recipes and so forth. And their whole way of approaching it was to say, look, we care about your health, and we know that you're not able to come out and work out the normal way you would, so we're going to help facilitate this. Find a solution for them, okay?
And Jim,
there's so many ways to do that.
Jim, by the way, on gyms, gymnasiums, most of these folks, like Planet Fitness, for instance, are not going to stop getting money. They continue to get money. So they send all their employees home and have nothing to do. But this is a great opportunity to reach out to just about everybody. So you've got to start thinking a little bit more, we think, differently about these businesses and how they can keep things moving. And the gym is just a great example.
Look, I guess I would think about it this way. When you're talking to your customers, there's really three things. One, it's their competition. Focus on that, because, you know, their competition is either going to cut back, that gives them an opportunity to gain market share, or their competition is going to keep on going. They had better not cut back if that's the case, so they're going to lose market share. And they ought to be considering their customers and what their customers' needs are. The value proposition they have been bringing to the table heretofore may no longer be relevant. So you want to talk to your customers about how are they going to be able to compete in the future, given maybe a change of priorities amongst their customers. What are their customers' new needs? One thing I would advise you to do in your sort of vernacular is change the word from advertising to communications. So you may have people saying, well, I don't really need to advertise right now because my business is being inundated. We're actually one of those essential services. Okay, but you still need to communicate with your customers. And if you aren't open, even more reason to communicate with your customers. So we've said it several times now, but I just think it bears repeating. Your job is to help your customers communicate with their customers. And the piece of advice I give you is to tell them, and for you yourselves, keep moving, act now. Don't let people spend too much time thinking about things, because every day that goes by is a missed opportunity for them.
Great,
Gordon?
thank you, Jim. And we have loads of questions. We do have about, I guess, 10 minutes, a little less than 10 minutes for questions. So Corey, what do we got? And if you have any, please do type them in. We have a huge list, but we'll take the live ones as well. Corey?
I have some live. I have some live
ahead.
ones too, Gordon.
Okay.
Well, let me get
But
this
go ahead
one.
first.
Yeah, let me get this one, because when I looked through all the questions, this theme kept coming up. So I'm going to use this as an umbrella. Can you offer some strategies for conveying to advertisers the need for ongoing marketing of their goods and services without our ad staff coming across as exploiting the misfortune of the crisis? There's been a lot of questions about how do we not look opportunistic going in and talking to our local advertisers.
First of all, it's a great question. First of all, I do think that your sales reps have to have it in their hearts. They're kind of like hungry dogs, right? And so you got to feed them a little bit and calm them down, and say, look, you need to approach people a bit differently. Empathize. The first question is, as they get somebody on the phone, is how's it going? How are things going? What are you hearing? And everybody's going to get to the inevitable question, when do you think this is going to be over? Or the rep can ask that question. We just gave you the data that says, well, we've heard this. And by the way, there's some great resources on the Small Business Administration website about, legal issues and financial issues and how to apply for loans and things like that. There's also information there about marketing. So you're kind of easing into that. But I think realistically, just the sales reps, you have to look at the sales reps in the eyes and say, we are here to help people. Our business, and I am sorry to tell you this, particularly newspaper people, because I get thrown out of a room sometimes when I say this, your most important job is not really informing the public. It's helping these businesses sell things, because isn't that what pays most of your paychecks? You are helping people communicate. The backbone of this community are the entrepreneurs. and you are helping them in a time of crisis. Give them low interest, lower, the rates if you need to, or you can, push the payments off to a little bit later. You do everything that you can to help. Set up these seminars, you just pull it off the Small Business Administration website. It's easy to do. Say, hey, we're going to create a little webinar on everything you need to know about applying for a loan. We're going to create a webinar on communicating with we do these webinars on marketing and communications. We are doing loads of these. Send us an email and we'll tell you how you can participate. We've got one in 10 minutes with a large group of advertisers for a newspaper company. So you're bringing in an outside entity that's going to talk broadly about radio and TV, and they're not going to come in. We aren't going to come in. Don't expect us and say, oh, the best thing you should do is advertise now in your local newspaper. We're not going to say that. And your sales reps need to take that approach. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer to, they really need to empathize. That's the way to approach. And just, say, hey, one of the things that we do, we're a local business too. We're trying to figure out ways to stay in business, is we help people communicate. And in that, we've got some programs that might be able to help you. I think they understand that.
Patty, I got another question, but do you want to do a live one?
Yeah, let me throw this one out because it just came in. Let me just throw this one out. Sorry, hold on. We just had a major healthcare provider pull out for all of April. Ad agency says they can't offer their retail services now. I would think they would need us for messaging now more than ever. Boy, I can think of a million ways that they could message, but go ahead, guys.
Well, that's a short answer, and that is you ought to steal that business away from the ad agency right now. You need to talk to them directly and say, you've got to be kidding. Go look at a post that I put up on LinkedIn just a few minutes ago, about an hour and a half ago, I guess. It said, I'm hearing of advertisers canceling their contracts. You've got to be kidding. Now is not the time to do that.
Especially for a healthcare organization.
Yeah,
really? A healthcare organization doesn't have anything they can communicate during this time?
There will be people who are flat-footed and are thinking negatively and thinking, oh, yes, it's time to cut. And be prepared for the agency to say, oh, yeah, they want you to spend money with them at the newspaper. Man, this is a fight. Go in and fight for those dollars and give them some of the information from this webinar. I think the advertiser is smart enough probably to sort it out and go, yeah, they're probably right. This is now the best time to advertise. Any others, Corey or Patty, any other live ones? I think we have 2 minutes before we've.
Okay. Yeah, we are a little newspaper in a rural area. Schools are closed. How can I pick up on lost revenue due to school closing? I think we talked about that. I think Matt mentioned tutoring, all sorts of different things that you could do to reach, subscribers to keep them engaged. But go ahead, guys, if you have ideas on that one too.
I would say you're not looking at reaching subscribers. We're not talking at all about subscribers here. We're talking about businesses. What can you do to help local businesses? And you have more than your small local newspaper to do that. You have mastery of other resources, whether it's a website or whether it's social media stuff or other types of messaging. And this is a time to really so you can't really be thinking about readers. You got to be thinking about advertisers and local businesses and how you help them with their marketing messages. And there were loads of examples here. Above all, I think we have time for one more question. And Corey, I'm going to go to you. Above all, you've got to be positive. You got to believe it, that there is an opportunity here. Everybody's looking for that. Be a leader. And you also have to come with 3 ideas in your back pocket when you call them. Call them, empathize, talk with them, give them some of this information, and you say, hey, you're an HVAC company, or hey, you're a healthcare provider. How about this? How about that? We heard about this pizza company in New York that's selling twice as many pizzas now, because whenever somebody buys one, even though they're looking out on Broadway and nobody's coming by, they're getting calls. Whenever somebody buys one, they say, would you like to buy an extra one, double your order, and we'll send that extra order over to the hospital. They need pizza, they need food, they can't leave. Oh, yeah. Creative thinking. That's great. Corey, one more.
Okay, last one. And I think this is a really good one. So you talk about everybody communicating. That's great. Please address we're just using our Facebook that comes from too many small businesses.
Go find a statistic on how many people are actually using Facebook, and it's all over the place. It certainly is a lot, but it's not the entire population. So I would, and be careful, don't say anything too disparaging about Facebook, but they're using one small targeted niche medium. and they're probably reaching only their current customers. Take the message that we've just given you. This is not an opportunity to just reach your current customers if you're a newspaper or you're a business. This is an opportunity to steal business and go after all of those other competitors out there in the marketplace that are flat-footed, whether it's a radio station, another newspaper, a TV station in your media business, or if you're a healthcare provider, all the other dumbass healthcare providers that are going, oh, woe is me, I don't think we really need to advertise right now. Go get that business. Go after the competitors. Thank you. We have got to run. We hope this has been very helpful. Matt's webinar Matt, is it next week or this week?
No,
it's this.
No, go ahead.
It's this Thursday. It's this Thursday, and we'll send information for all of you to participate, where they'll be drilling down more on promotion.
11 a.m.
Gordon, yes. Gordon, Jim, and Corey, thank you so much for your expertise. Really appreciate it. And hey, Gordon, when I said subscribers, what I meant was advertisers reaching your subscribers, customers, kind of a thing. So
that's good.
But thank you. I appreciate your time and effort, and thank you everyone for participating. Be well, everyone. Stay healthy, but like Gordon said, get out there and see what you can do.
Go get them. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yeah, take care, everyone.